Without that, you literally cannot work legally, which is kind of a problem. Hi everyone, my name is Rika. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel again. If you noticed, I'm dressed a little different in this video than normal because today I really wanted to discuss some resume tips, some job hunting tips, just some general things that would definitely help you to land your dream job or any job, to be honest. Alright, so my first point is to get your credentials assessed. I definitely spoke about this in my previous video, and I used West. I'll definitely put their complete name across the screen right now. I used them, and I just sent in, I think, my transcript from the University of the West Indies, which is where I did my undergraduate studies at, and they assessed it and they aligned it with the Canadian equivalent to a bachelor's degree. So if you have a master's, PhD, whatever your credentials are, I'm not sure if they do it for high school, but they probably do, to be honest. So if you want to get a job in a country that you're not necessarily from, you need to show the employer, the potential employer, that your credentials, your degree, any of your degrees or anything like that lines up with persons in that country that have gone through similar training. My next point is, I did this and it definitely worked. Apply for everything that is relevant in your field. I've seen things that require 5 years experience, 5 years of management experience, 6 years of this type of experience, of that type of experience, and I applied. They don't usually call me back for that. They don't usually call me back for that position, but that's also okay. What they do normally do though is they will call me and they'll be like, oh, we saw your resume applying for XYZ position. You're not necessarily qualified for this position. However, we have a more junior position that would more align with your qualification. You never see that I come down, look on that. If I didn't know for myself and apply now, how would I have known that? Think about that. Anyways, think about that. So even if you're not super qualified for the position, I would definitely go ahead and apply, because maybe there's a more junior position in the field, but you just didn't see that position, or I don't know, maybe they didn't advertise that position, or maybe they had someone for that position and the person just resigned. So many things can happen that make you the perfect candidate, but if you didn't apply and didn't put yourself out there, you literally wouldn't. So the next thing is to update your resume and have multiple people look at it. Now, you can update your resume and it needs work. You can update your resume and it still needs a lot of work. So what you need to do is have, in my preference is to have an HR professional look at my resume, as well as a hiring manager, because they both know exactly what they're looking for when they want people in their company. So for me to ask someone who's probably not been formally employed for a while to look at my resume, that might not necessarily get me the type of results or feedback that I would need in order to land the kind of job that I'm looking for. Speaking of resume, it needs to be 2 pages long. You have to understand that when persons are recruiting, a lot of times it's a lot of work and they're going through a lot of resume. So you might be the right candidate, you know, you probably are the candidate that they need, but because your resume is so long, them not know how they're not, because I lost part of your resume and I something them there, so like them not even know say you're a right person. So you need to concise it to 2 pages, so that, and you need to put the most relevant things. So when I was in university, I did work and travel, which is a cultural exchange program where persons from other countries can go to the United States to work. With that, I did housekeeping and I also did reservations. So when I'm looking for a job in corporate world, you would imagine that I would put my experience as a reservations officer as opposed to my experience as a housekeeper, because that's probably not necessarily relevant for the position that I'm now applying for, if you get what I mean. So the next point I want to look at is trying to get relevant experience in your home country even before coming to Canada. So even though you definitely want to come to Canada, you know, with a hunger and an open mind and all that good stuff, you probably would be in a better position. A lot of employers only want Canadian experience or would prefer Canadian experience, but a lot of them do look at the experience that you have from your home country, and they definitely consider that valid, and they think that that's really good on your resume and that you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into in terms of the employment agreement that you're looking to enter in with them. So my credentials and my experience from back home were not null and void when I was applying for a lot of jobs here, so which is in Canada, by the way. So definitely I would go ahead and try to get as much relevant experience as possible, even if you have to volunteer. Which brings me to my next point. So given that you're now coming to Canada and you want a job in Canada, a lot of Canadian companies require that you have references just to kind of, back up some of the things that you have said and all that good stuff. So to get Canadian references, if you don't have any Canadian experience, a good way to do that is to volunteer, especially while you're going to school. Because while you're going to school, my accent wall is showing there. I just want to kind of tilt this or bring it closer to me. Good stuff. So while you're going to school, you definitely can volunteer at different places, because once you volunteer there, then you have some amount of work experience and you are able to put those people as your reference. And you can also do internships. Sometimes they are unpaid, and I know it can be quite burdensome, especially when you have all these bills and you don't have any money coming in. So it's very difficult for you to take your time that you could be getting paid for to give for free services. But in the long run, it definitely pays off. I did an unpaid internship, definitely wasn't easy, and that was in conjunction to me doing my postgraduate certificate. So the next thing that I feel like is just super important, especially if you're coming to Canada and you're new, is to apply for your social insurance number. Without that, you literally cannot work legally, which is kind of a problem, because you need a number that's attached to your taxes, and you have to pay taxes in Canada. Like, make no joke about it. As well as no employer is going to take you on without a social insurance number. My next point is flips page. Reach out to recruiting agencies. So there are plenty of recruiting agencies in Canada, definitely in Toronto. I will link a few of them below. I have had interactions with Randstad, with Robert Half, with Quantum, with HR Associates, and these have been really great experiences. I would definitely encourage anyone to reach out to them and see the relevant listings that they have, and just see what can happen. I didn't necessarily get employment from all of them, but I've learned things from each of them, definitely, and things that I have been able to apply to my career and just apply to my professional life, and it has been a worthwhile experience. So reach out to them, hear what they have to say, but you do have to understand that these recruiting agencies is based on what the client wants. So if the client doesn't have a position that fits your criteria, they'll keep you in their database, but you can't necessarily either, because if you have a really good recruiter with these companies, the recruiter will consistently keep in touch with you. They'll give you interview practice, resume tips. They'll literally look over your resume. They'll tell you how to word your emails when you're talking to people. It is definitely worth the interaction. So I would definitely go ahead, and I will, as I said earlier, list them in the description. My next tip is to try to get some Canadian qualification. This can be very expensive, especially if your status is not that you are a permanent resident in Canada. So if your status doesn't allow you to get like a cheaper school fee or whatever, it can be very difficult or very expensive for you to get Canadian qualification. However, if you do your research and you look into probably some shorter courses, maybe some things that take like 2 months or 6 weeks or 16 weeks or something. 16 is almost 1 semester though. But if you do something that takes a 2 month or whatever, but these courses usually kind of require that you have some amount of experience in the field. But they're worth it, and it probably is like $1,200. 1,200 Canadian compared to like 15,000, 16,000. I mean, when I weigh it out, you see where I'm getting at. My next point is register for professional bodies in your field. So I know that, for example, for human resources, it is HRPA, Human Resource Professional Association. So for most companies, they like to see that you are with that type of body and that you have that on your resume, and you're able to show that you are looking for ways to make yourself, better in this career. You're looking for ways to expand yourself in this career. You're great with networking, and you're approachable. You can work with. So it's definitely a plus if you register for these associations and you go to their meetings, which is usually frequent, probably once a month, or which is frequent for somebody who have other things to do in their life. My next one is to use your existing network. So previous employers might be able to be your references. They might also know people who are now in the area. So say you used to work in Jamaica and you need someone, your old manager, like your name did cool and whatever, and say, so I got Canada and thing. They might be like, some of a virgin did migrate from in a high school, and you can reach out to him or you can reach out to her, see what they have to say. tell people about it. I know a lot of times persons like to do these things in secrecies, and that's fine as well, but if it's someone that you trust and you have a good relationship, ask them, talk to them. They might be able to give you a helping hand, might be able to, even if you don't necessarily land a job from that network, you honestly might be able to get some type of insight that would help you to get the next job. So my final tip is go on the interviews. I know in my previous video that I mentioned my guy place and it popped on and all them something there. But for real though, go to the interviews if even just for practice. So you might not necessarily even be interested in the position, but going on the interview, you get different insights. You're now able to think a different way. The questions that they ask you, it really brings a lot to you and it helps you professionally. I have gone on quite a few interviews for practice and I feel like they definitely helped me in the long run to have better answers prepared for my next interview, just to understand, more about the place, especially if you don't necessarily get out a lot and you're new in an area. When you go on different interview them, all I train them, all I bus stop them, everything. You know a place. You start know a place. So I definitely would do that. And you can also it helps you to shake the nerves. Because when you go on interview, you're usually very nervous. But if you start go on interview all the time, simple math that. Like you go on like your feet. You're okay there be like, am I work me upon now? You're confident. So it definitely makes a difference to go on these interviews. So those were my tips. I really, really hope that all of them will help you to get your next job, your dream job, whatever you're looking to transition from. A lot of them are applicable for persons who are new Canadians or for persons who are still in their home country and they need that just little, zill on top of it. Oh, kind of like a bonus tip. So with I'm all over the place. With relevant experience, I know sometimes you don't necessarily have any experience that is relevant. Sometimes some of the experience where you have, where you think they're relevant, it can definitely be relevant. So think about it. Say your mom has a bar or she has a little shop and you help out in that shop. There are so many things you can derive just from that one position. You probably help with recruiting in terms of that you help forget the bartender or the shopkeeper who comes week on and week off. So you can include on your resume that you've screened resumes, you've done recruiting, and you were in the interview process. That's definitely something you can include. You've done inventory management because you help your mother take stock. You got tone with her go buy up with something them, or you go to downtown Toronto to help with the stock taking. Customer service experience. You've had inventory experience. You've done people management because you had to be the person taking care of the person who works in the bar and all that. So you can turn experience that you might think is not relevant into very, very relevant experience. So I think that is all my tips. Feel free to leave questions in the comments below. I definitely will be responding, liking them, all that stuff. We can definitely have a conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, like this video, share this video with someone who is looking for gainful employment right now, and have a good one. Stay safe.